The quietness is overwhelming. The only person who made a video, 3 videos that, go watch them. I don't really care. It's Truth Savior. Nothing from Akeem. Hip Hop Historian made 2 goofy videos that have nothing to do with nothing. Nothing from Bustito. Nothing from Tariq Nasheed. Nothing from Racer Bo. Nothing from anybody. I welcome the challenge. And here's the next challenge. Debate me. Any of you come from behind the camera and do a public debate, an intellectual, moderated debate on the true history of hip-hop's culture and the Latin breakdown. That's my challenge. Don't make a video about it. Let's go live, one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-3, whatever you want, and let's have a moderated debate. The one that I really want to debate and tear apart with his whack documentary that was definitely propaganda is Tariq Nasheed.
What's up, fam? Man, I had second thoughts about doing this video because I was trying not to talk about Dr. Cologne, but I don't know if you guys already know that he made 2 videos. They're taken down now. That's how Dr. Cologne does. He'll make videos and then he takes them down. But these 2 videos were about challenges made to myself, Tariq, hip hop historian, Bustito, and others. He wanted to challenge us to a debate about hip hop, whatever he said, whatever you want to talk about, we can have a debate on. So clearly, he's seeking some type of attention, and so I was thinking, man, do I really want to give this guy attention? Because I was working on some other things, and so I decided, you know what? Let me give this guy some attention since he's looking for it. Now, let me remind you, Dr. Cologne. Only losers ask for a rematch. All right? So clearly, I'm not looking for a rematch because I felt that I won the debate. So clearly, you feel as though you didn't win, and this is why you're seeking a rematch. You definitely are in need of some type of revitalization or something to that effect because things aren't looking too good on your end. So be that as it may, there's some things I want to bring to light about Dr. Cologne's honesty and integrity. And so I'm going to take this opportunity to go over a few examples of just how dishonest this guy is and what the type of information that he brings forward. So if you are followers of Dr. Cologne, I understand. He has the gift of gab. I could definitely understand why you would think that he's a great communicator. He comes across as truthful and honest. But the sad truth of it all, that he's not honest. He lacks a lot of integrity. So with these few examples I'm going to provide for you, I'm going to demonstrate what type of person he is. And after this, and after you see this, and you still feel that Dr. Cologne is an honorable person and an honest person, then that says a lot about you. All right? So with that being said, let's get to it. What I want to do, I want to start with this example. This is from the first debate, or the only debate, I should say. And here is Dr. Cologne reading from an article which he purports to suggest that there's a link between the Palladium and the B-Boy anthems. So just give a listen to this particular presentation and we're going to talk about it.
Now let's move to the Palladium Ballroom. And this is taken from palladiummambo.com. Okay, so it says, known as the home of the mambo. The Palladium Ballroom was America's most important venue for the development of Latin music and dance throughout the 1950s. Mambo music and dance were co-created at the Palladium, where, watch this, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Italian, Jewish, Irish, and African American patrons danced nightly to the music of the Big Three, the Latin orchestras, which were Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, and Machito. The Palladium Ballroom began programming Latin music on Sundays in 1947 and soon expanded to an all-Latin format, hosting live Latin music Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. I want to read something again. This is so important, right? Watch this. In the 1950s, mambo music and dance were co-created at the Palladium, where Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Italian, Jewish, Irish, and African American patrons danced to the music. I think that's interesting. I think that says a lot. We continue with the Palladium Ballroom. People like Mario Balsa, Tito Puente, Machito and his Afro-Cubans would be seen by the jazz musicians from Birdland. And those musicians would rock out with the Latin bands. The Latin musicians would also go to Birdland and rock out with the jazz musicians. This is what I'm talking about. We see this as early as the early 1900s. We see this connection, this marriage musically. We've been doing this together. We see this with James Reese Europe and Rafael Hernandez. We see this with Fletcher Henderson and Bob Escudero. We see this with Duke Ellington and Juan Fisol. What makes you think that we've been creating music together all this time, and suddenly when we get to hip hop, it stops? I beg to differ. Here we go. This is the influence of the Latin breakdown that you hear in the b-boy anthems. It is the Latin descarga, the go-off. What is the influence? It is this place right here, the Palladium Ballroom. These people, Mario Bausa, Tito Puente, Machito, the Latin musicians combining with the jazz musicians to create this sound. The influence of the Latin breakdown is the Latin descarga.
Now, this is the article in question. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play the audio of Cologne reading the same thing you just heard so you can follow along. And you'll notice when he gets to the part about saying Saturday night, that's where he stops. Then he'll say, continue with the Palladium or something to that effect. And everything he reads after that is not in this article.
Now let's move to the Palladium Ballroom. And this is taken from palladiummambo.com. Okay, so it says, known as the home of the mambo, the Palladium Ballroom was America's most important venue for the development of Latin music and dance throughout the 1950s. Mambo music and dance were co-created at the Palladium, where, watch this, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Italian, Jewish, Irish, and African American patrons danced nightly to the music of the Big Three, the Latin orchestras, which were Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, and Machito. The Palladium Ballroom began programming Latin music on Sundays in 1947 and soon expanded to an all-Latin format, hosting live Latin music Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. I want to read something again. This is so important, right? Watch this. In the 1950s, mambo music and dance were co-created at the Palladium, where Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Italian, Jewish, Irish, and African American patrons danced to the music. I think that's interesting. I think that says a lot. We continue with the Palladium Ballroom. People like Mario Bausa, Tito Puente, Machito and his Afro-Cubans would be seen by the jazz musicians from Birdland. And those musicians would rock out with the Latin bands. The Latin musicians would also go to Birdland and rock out with the jazz musicians. This is what I'm talking about. We see this as early as the early 1900s. We see this connection.
Man, you can't make this up. This guy literally made that whole part up after he said, continue with the Palladium. I would encourage you guys to read the article for yourself, and you tell me, do you see anything that he said after Saturday or Sunday night? You tell me, do you see anything that he said? And this should reveal to you what kind of person you're dealing with. Now, when I called him out on the first time, he actually, I think he texted me like, oh, you were wrong for posting that video. I didn't lie, I didn't fabricate. That's what he was telling me. Oh, you should apologize for suggesting that I would do such a thing. And I told him, look, you clean it up. Because clearly that was your intent. Your intent was to deceive the listeners. So if you want to clean it up, that's on you. I'm not doing anything. And that's what I told him. You clean up, it's your mistake, you clean it up. And you know what? He never made a video trying to clean it up. You know why? Because he wants you to think that what he said was actually in that article. So I would encourage you guys to read that article, and you will see what I'm saying is true. Now, in this example, to me, this is more troublesome or more problematic because here he is, not only is he being deceptive, he is being completely dishonest. There is no evidence that Clyde Stubblefield was influenced by Cuban music, yet he makes a video suggesting that. Again, trying to Latinize James Brown. He did it before by trying to use John Griggs, his conga player, to do it, but that wasn't enough. So now let's go after the drummer as well. So let's take a look at this clip.
The conga rhythms in James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose is heavily inspired by Afro-Cuban music, particularly the clave rhythms found in Latin music. The groove is used in this song draws from the syncopated polyrhythms that are typical in Afro-Cuban music, blending them with Brown's funk style. Brown's band, particularly his drummer, Clyde Stubblefield, played a major role in incorporating these kinds of rhythms into the music. Stubblefield's drumming has a strong syncopation, and while the conga itself is not always prominent in all versions, the rhythmic feel mimics the structure of the clave, a key rhythmic pattern found in Cuban music genres like son, rumba, and mambo. Brown's interest in Latin and African rhythms was part of a broader trend in American music during the 1960s and 70s, when many jazz and soul musicians began to explore and incorporate these rhythms into their work. The rhythmic interplay in Give It Up or Turn It Loose reflects the influence of these Afro-Cuban and African rhythmic traditions while staying true to the core of James Brown's funk, characterized by its tight grooves, emphasis on the one beat and syncopation.
Clyde Stubblefield played with James Brown for 6 years. Tomorrow night he's putting on a show with some of his friends. Donations all benefit the Clyde Stubblefield Scholarship Fund. Here this morning is Clyde. Thank you for being with us, along with his nephew Marcus there on the end, and Joey B. Banks from the fund. Thanks to all of you. I'm waking up a musician, having musicians come in early in the morning.
Oh, we will.
Mr. Stubblefield, tell me right off the bat, you didn't take formal music training when you were a kid. How important is it to get kids interested in music, around that music, and to play music?
Well, it's interesting by just being yourself, number one. Don't let people disturb you by disturbing your thoughts and feelings and things. I have never taken music. I have never had drum patterns, and nobody's taught me anything. I've always played my feeling and my soul. And when someone try to tell me to try to do something, I tell them, you're talking to the wrong person. You know, I don't even read music. So I enjoy my life of music. I never expected a lot of this stuff to be happening, and it all come about, and I'm happy with it.
That's great. Joey Eubanks is with the Scholarship Fund.
Is it me, or did I miss something? Did Clyde Stubblefield say he was influenced by Cuban music? I didn't hear that. But for some reason, Cologne believes that's the case. So much so, he makes a video about it. Clearly, Clyde Stubblefield said no one taught him anything. Everything that he plays comes from within. So where did Cologne get that from? He got it from you know where. What can we expect, or what do we expect from Dr. Cologne? It is what it is. Now, this is another example of Cologne's deceptive tactics. This is from a live that was done on Tri-Media, and Cologne was a guest panelist. And one of the co-owners, his name is Hitz, he was asking Cologne a question about a clip that featured track 2, talking about the Zulu Kings with the first B-boys, and they were black. So, as you will hear, the question is posed to Cologne. Basically explain this, right? Since you're saying that it was Puerto Ricans, so explain why track 2 would be saying this. So what Cologne does so expertly is that he distracts or deflects the emphasis on the Zulu Kings by substituting them with Herc's B-boys. And so he tried to imply that track 2 was actually talking about Herc's B-boys. And as you heard yourself, and as you will hear, he never said anything about Herc's B-boys. But Cologne wants you to believe that that's what track 2 was speaking to. So this shows his dishonesty and his great way of deflecting and getting you to focus on something that's really not the subject of the question. Give a listen.
No antics here. So I want to play one, if I have it up here, video, and you can speak to this video, right? To what track 2 was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they are Puerto Rican. I don't want to speak for Puerto Ricans. I'm sure you saw the video 100 times, but you can go over mainly just the beginning of it.
Okay.
What he's talking about. As a matter of fact, if you know the people next to him outside of Crazy Legs, it's hard for me to see. You can name them also if you could. But let's see if we can hear it.
Yeah.
Blacks were the first.
Blacks were the first.
Right.
Blacks were the first.
Let me go back. So when we talk about first, originate.
Keep going.
Create. But hold on, because it's kind of doesn't have good audio quality. So let's just, and plus I don't want to get a copyright strike. So we got to talk.
Blacks were the first B-boys and the first crew that was identified that essence and B-boy motion was Zulu Kings.
All right, you can speak to that, and then I'll play the rest of the minute. I just got to put some medicine in my kitten's eye, and I'll be right back. It's that time. Be right back.
So
Speak to that for me. Thanks.
Track made that statement. I speak to Track all the time. Call Track right now. And I asked him about that. I asked him about the Freshest Kids again. What he said is, this is what we were taught. This is what we were always told, and what he's talking about when he says the first, he's talking about Herc's dancers specifically. But then he talks about the Zulu Kings.
You got to be kidding me, Hitz. Wow. Go ahead, Doc.
Quick.
Okay, no problem. But then he goes to the Zulu Kings. Again, the Zulu Kings are part of they're late 75, 76. And we're talking about the original Zulu King dancers, so the B-boys. So again, this is TBB, Star Child of Rock, the Zulu Kings, they're together. When he's talking about the black B-boys, he's talking about the first B-boys being black. He's talking about those B-boys that were people made to believe that Herc's dancers, which is, again, Trixie, Sasa, Dancing Doug, even the twins, the legendary twins, that's what the story was in the streets, that they were the first ones. But when he went to investigate and he talked to them, he asked them, he honored these guys, and they told him, we never went to the floor. And he said, what? He has a video out there telling this whole thing. And he said, what do you mean you never went to the floor? Like, you're the first B-boys. They said, no, we didn't get dirty. We didn't go to the floor. Everything we did was up top.
So in your summation, up rocking, any of that up top is not breakdancing.
Up rock, well, see, up rock is a connection to B-boying.
Just asking.
Yes.
That's where it started at, right?
I'm asking you.
Yes.
But they weren't doing up rock.
But hold on.
They were doing burning. That's different.
Why would he call them the first B-boys, though?
I just told you, because that's the story that everybody told. It was a myth that went around the neighborhood. They were the first. And then when you talk to them, no, we didn't do that. We did like the tightrope, like we would act like we were walking on a tightrope, and then we would roll on the floor and get back up, and we do pin drops like James Brown, but we didn't do what y'all did. We didn't even call it that. We called it burning. It was totally different. That's from them. They're saying this. So that's what he was led to believe. And this is why the story needs to be corrected.
All right, let's keep it going. Here's another example. Here we are. He creates this video about Rafael Hernandez. Well, he's basically, the video is dealing with Rafael Hernandez and Juan Tizol and Bob Escudero. But this particular part of the video really caught my attention. And this is about Rafael Hernandez. So what he tries to suggest in this particular video, I'm going to play for you in a minute. If you watch it, you think that Rafael Hernandez was part of James Reese Europe's band or ensemble when this great new innovative sound was created. All right? And what Ray Vega is speaking to in the presentation that he's given, he's speaking to a particular year, 1914. Okay, that's the year. Rafael Hernandez doesn't come on the scene until 1917. And when you watch Cologne's video, he doesn't mention that part about 1917 because he wants you to think that Rafael Hernandez was part of the process of creating jazz. That's what he wants you to believe. So again, this speaks to his dishonesty, his deception, and his lack of integrity. And his great editing skills. What can I say? I mean, he does his thing. So let's watch.
He wound up in New York City in 1904. This is where it starts getting interesting. In 1914, the citizens of Harlem, they petitioned the governor of New York State to grant them their own military unit to be based in Harlem. They hired James Reese Europe. He got the rank of lieutenant, and he created an ensemble. And this group, what they did, which is really important, was they created a new sound. This gentleman here, Rafael Hernandez, one of the most important composers of music from Puerto Rico, well, he was a trombonist. And what happened was James Reese Europe was ordered by his superiors in the United States Army to go to Puerto Rico and recruit dark-skinned musicians to join his military outfit. Musicians in places like Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Panama, etc., were known for their excellent musical training. The reason why I like to stress about people like Rafael Hernandez in particular, or these Latinos who are involved in these groups, a lot of historians will still consider Latin jazz or Latinos' involvement in jazz, because that's what this is about at this point. This is Latinos' involvement in jazz. Many historians will only focus on what happened in the latter part of the 1940s with Dizzy Gillespie recording with Chano Pozo, or Charlie Parker recording with the Machito Orchestra. Then that's when they start saying, oh, that's when Latinos started to get involved. And that's really not accurate.
Now let's listen to the original Ray Vega presentation and see, does it match up what Cologne put in his video.
Getting interesting. In 1914, the citizens of Harlem, they petitioned the governor of New York State to grant them their own military unit to be based in Harlem. And as is customary in that type of setup, you have a military unit, you're going to have a band, an ensemble. And so the United States government, they hired James Reese Europe. He got the rank of lieutenant, and he created an ensemble. This is them here right now. This is this photograph of them here. And this group, what they did, which is really important, was they created a new sound. The word jazz was not really used yet. The word jazz wasn't really part of the vocabulary until at 1918 rather, with the original Dixieland Jazz Band, when they recorded under that title. But the word jazz was not used. People called it ragtime music, instrumental ragtime, etc. So these guys were now performing military marches and popular marches from America, as well as European marches, but then plantation music as well. And they were not playing it like marching bands. They were playing it with this kind of a different sound to it. And it swung a little differently. Now, okay, you might say, well, what is the connection with the Latin thing? Well, I'll get to that in a moment. This gentleman here, Rafael Hernandez, one of the most important composers of music from Puerto Rico, well, he was a trombonist. And what happened was James Reese Europe was ordered by his superiors in the United States Army to go to Puerto Rico and recruit dark-skinned musicians to join his military outfit. He returned to New York City on May 11th of 1917 on the SS Caracas with musicians from Puerto Rico.
This is probably the picture that Ray Vega was referring to when he talked about James Reese Europe's military ensemble. But this is a picture of his Clef Club. And if you notice, the date says 1914. So at that time in 1914, they were all black, no Latinos. Man, oh man, I could have gone on and on with more evidence, more proof, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. Most of you know what type of person Cologne is. He's going to make up information, create narratives that are just untrue. And so my job is to stand in the way, do what I can to stop the madness. And I know for him, I'm an unwelcome roadblock. But it is what it is. I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing, Cologne. I'm going to do my thing. All right? So, thumb up the video. Share, subscribe. Until next time, peace.